Hi, Martin Turner here. This week Maria Tyler leads our lecture as we look at accounting systems and MYOB. Maria introduces us to accounting systems and accounting software. We then look at the role of internal controls, and we are introduced to MYOB, including the Help Centre and Show Me How videos. And Maria takes us through key information on completing steps 8 and 9 in our assignment. Let's start by looking at accounting systems.
We actually may have a fairly short lecture today, which is good because we actually need a little bit more time in our workshops to start work on the MYOB component. So I won't drag it out, I'm just going to get straight to the point, cover what we need to know, go over the assignment. Actually, I've got the agenda up on the next slide, so I'll just go through that. We'll go through the background or the introduction to accounting systems. Then I will cover internal controls, and hopefully the teaching team can also provide some good examples so that that can be a bit more relatable. Otherwise, it tends to be a bit of a airy-fairy section. And then we will go through specifically the accounting software that we'll be using in our unit this term, which is Mind Your Own Business, MYOB. So I can't actually show any videos due to copyright on our recordings, but I can show you the screenshots and the website, so I will go through that. In particular because between the time that the assignment was written with the links and today, MYOB has changed one little version for Mac users, so I just want to point that out today as well. And that is the nature of dynamic links. Unfortunately, they are subject to change at any day, so I'll just point that out and also just cover or run through the requirements of steps 8 and 9 and answer a couple of the commonly asked questions, specifically regarding the screenshots for step 8 of the assignment. And then we will finish off with the minute paper. So I'm estimating about an hour for the lecture today, so we'll finish about 20 minutes early. Okay, so accounting systems and accounting software are often used interchangeably as terms, but they're actually two separate definitions. So an accounting system is basically any system that can crunch the numbers for your business, okay? So it provides feedback about your business. We call it a collaboration of numbers that provides feedback. Now, an accounting system can be manual, so you can manually do the books, which is where the word bookkeeping comes from, or it can be an electronic system, as most systems are today. It's very unusual to see manually done accounts anymore. Only in very, very small clubs and organisations, that's the only places I really see them done. Now, accounting software is obviously electronic, and so it electronically records and processes all of the accounting transactions for you. So all you have to do, instead of doing all the general journals every time and posting them to a ledger, and you know, doing a trial balance and all the manual process that we covered in the bookkeeping side, the accounting software does that for you. All you have to do is input. So you just enter an invoice or enter the purchase, and the software does all of the background journals and postings for you, and report preparation, which is fantastic. So the accounting software itself, it records and processes accounting transactions within modules such as our general journal, accounts receivable, accounts payable. In most software systems, they're not called accounts receivable and accounts payable. They're called a different name. So MYOB in particular calls them sales, the sales command centre and the purchases command centre. And within that command centre, you've got the function for entering your invoices, so your accounts receivable, as well as your payments to your suppliers, which is accounts payable. So just bear in mind, so an accounting system can be manual or electronic. It's a system of organisation. Accounting software is the electronic package that processes your business transactions. Now, I will pick up on accounting systems shortly, just after. I just want to hear from you first, because I know from experience a lot of you are already working part-time or full-time as long as studying. So if you can let me know what sort of packages you use on the next few slides. It's interactive, so you can go on and just give me a little bit of a feel, I guess, for what you've already used in the real world in terms of accounting software. So describe what the package is, so whether it's Xero for your clients or MYOB or other accounting software, what you use it for, when do you use it, where you use it, and why do you use it. If you don't feel like typing, just get on the air and tell me about it. So here's the interactive version. So have you used an accounting software package? If so, describe what, when, where, and why do you use it. And I might get the teaching team to start on this while we're waiting for the student responses too. I know Lois definitely has used accounting software packages. Lois?
Hi, Maria. Yep, I have used, actually at the moment I'm using Xero the most. So I've used a lot of Xero, Sasu, Attaché, all other ones over the years, but my favourite is Xero, and I know that sounds really lame, but it was born in the cloud, so it's made to be used for this interactive use. So I really find it very easy to use, user-friendly, and just simple for people to understand, but not quite as an accounting package. There's certain things like at the end it'll say your bank account reconciles, but it really doesn't reconcile. So it's not made by accountants is my theory, just software analysts.
I think all packages started out a similar way. I remember all the issues we used to have with MYOB and QuickBooks back in the day with reporting and in particular salary sacrifice functions. It couldn't accommodate them. And so we would provide the feedback to the software developers, who usually were IT engineers, and they couldn't understand where we were coming from. And so there was this mismatch of people creating the software to people using it. So that's another aspect.
Absolutely.
So you use that predominantly for your clients, and they use that for their record keeping in their businesses? John, what software systems have you used and been exposed to?
I use MYOB for my own businesses. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Yeah, MYOB's a common one.
I find it does the job for me.
Yeah, it does the job for a lot of businesses. For the people or the clients and the businesses I work with, MYOB still is the predominant package as well. Xero is, though, taking over. Like Lois said, a number of clients do find some limitations, though, so are just sticking with the more traditional packages until the newer ones sort of upgrade and catch up and improve their software as well. Okay, let's have a look at some responses from the students. Okay, so we've got MYOB, good, used during school for study purposes, used over the course of 6 months, and I used it as it was part of the curriculum of accounting at school, including exams. Oh, that's great to know. I hadn't realised that they were introducing software into schools, which is great. It's very good. I used MYOB in 2014, working for Ray White in Brisbane, and my position was the receptionist. I had to sort through all of the rental payments made by tenants and check to make sure they were on time or 1 week ahead with their payments. I honestly don't remember too much of it nowadays because I found a better job soon after Maitland. That's good. Well, hopefully you will remember some of it as we pick it up and go through, and you'll see the screen's still very much the same. So the general command centre is still predominantly in the same format it has been for the last 15 years. Yeah. Epicor, I use it to pay accounts and bank reconciliations. It is used by all in the company's finance department. Good. So we've got a different system here, Epicor. I haven't used that one. And we've got two for MYOB as well. So MYOB is the actual accounting software that business uses. So in Maitland's example for Ray White, in this particular firm it was Epicor. In my previous job, the company uses Platinum Accounting System, and we are in the process of migrating our data to SAP. I use it to record sales, invoice, and cash receipts. So again, so another accounting system. That's great, Platinum accounting, and then now migrating to SAP. So SAP, I've used it in context of some of the mining companies. They have used SAP, and I understand there's a little bit of limitations with SAP too in their reports. The specific management reports that are needed, SAP is still improving and upgrading those as well. So that's great. So it looks like there are some of you who do have some quite hands-on practical experience. So when I'm going through the general structure of an accounting system, it doesn't matter what system you are using, the general format or structure of it is the same. So just as you've used Platinum Accounting System or Epicor or SAP or Xero or Attaché, Handysoft, whatever software systems you've used in the past, the process of completing is the same in MYOB, which we use in this unit for our assessment. So because it's all the same structure of an accounting system. So we'll move on to that structure now, and I'll just generally explain it. Accounting systems, remember, don't have to be electronic. It's a system of doing something. So it can also be manual. We have the input from source data. So again, you can manually input into your manual accounting system. So you enter into your journals and your special journals. So we have the source data. Processing is the entering into of the journals, and this part is automatically done in an electronic system. So with an electronic system, you really just do the input part, or the data entry, we call it. The system itself does all the processing, so it does the postings to the journal, groupings, and then you can get reports from the system, and that's the output. In a manual system, obviously, you have to do it. You have to get all of your source data. You have to input it manually into your special journals, your general journal, post them across, prepare your different trial balances at different points, close the accounts, prepare the post-closing trial balance, then prepare your financial statements and any other reports that you might need. So whether it's a manual system or an electronic system, what you input has to be processed, and your outputs are only as good as what your inputs were. So if you make an error in an input, you will have errors in your reports. So that's the general structure of our accounting system. So again, garbage in, garbage out. So you can see it's important that we make sure we don't put garbage in. And so this is where internal control tries to come in and help us. So if you make errors inputting, once it gets processed and you're looking at your reports, you usually realise something doesn't look right. You'll have to go back and recheck or double check or try and correct what you've entered in incorrectly in the input section. So to help us out, we have a number of different tasks or checks and balances that we have in place, or that different businesses try and put in place, so that we don't really have garbage going into our system. We call these checks and balances, we give them the broad term of internal control, and that means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. Now, generally speaking, we can split internal controls into what we call administrative controls and then accounting controls. Now, that's not exhaustive, and there are lots of different other ways we can classify internal controls, but they're basically the tools that we want to use as a firm and as people entering in for our firm, that will give our users of our reports the confidence that we're operating efficiently, that our assets are being safeguarded, that there's reliability in the reports that they're reading, and also that we comply with all of the relevant and applicable laws and regulations. So there's a number of generally accepted internal controls that are in place, and we'll go through a couple of them on the next slide. So administrative controls are things like making sure different people do different aspects of the recording process. We call that separation of duties. So if you have one person doing the entire recording right through to reporting process, then there's more opportunity for fraudulent behaviour. So by separating out the duties involved from input to output, we are trying to minimise the opportunity and the temptation often for fraudulent behaviour. So separation of duties is a big one between not just departments, but between employees. Now, this one in practice I found is a little bit hard to do when you have a small business where there's only one person who's the receptionist as well as the bookkeeper as well as the office manager. So again, there's always a cost benefit to employing more people so you have the separation of duties, or do we take the risk and hopefully that the one person we've employed is ethical and honest, as you would hope they would be, and we don't have separation of duties. We don't have this internal control. But of course, in larger organisations, this is a must for internal control, separation of duties. Also making sure that every person has a clear line of responsibility, because I know this with my children. If I just say, can somebody please clear the table won't be cleared. But if I say, Hannah, can you please clear the table? I have given her the responsibility, so she makes sure she gets it done, or there's consequences. So it's the same in a business. Okay, you need to have clear, established lines of responsibility. If you just say to somebody, oh, can you just do this work, to a group of people, can you just do this work, chances are, because you haven't given anybody specific responsibility, the work's not going to be done, or it's not going to be done of a high standard. So making sure that there is clearly defined lines of responsibility for every employee is a good internal control, which helps us to feel assured that our input is going to be good. Therefore, our output will be good. So there are the two main administrative controls. There obviously are a lot more. Accounting controls, and again, this list isn't exhaustive. There's a lot more than this. So we like to have what we call standardised documentation. So a lot of firms that I used to go in to do audits for, they would have an actual little form for everything that they had to do. So when you wanted to go out and buy something for your job, you would have to have something similar to a purchase order or an order requisition. And it was the same form all the time. When the accounts payable clerks were paying the bills from the suppliers, they would check it against previous documentation and also fill out what they called a payment advice voucher, which was attached to every invoice and kept available for audit purposes. And it was the same form. So it's all those forms that you have to fill out for your employer and in your workplaces, at uni. It's all that standardised documentation. That's one form of accounting control. There are also programming controls, and MYOB uses this as well. So if you enter something into the system that is incorrect or that may be incorrect, MYOB itself will pop up with a little information box and will say, can you just please check this, make sure, are you really sure that you want to record this transaction? And then you can go, oh, hang on, no, thanks for reminding me, go back, fix it up, and then click record. Or you can go, actually, I'm happy to record it like this. I meant to do that, and then you can click record. So that's a programmed control inside the system. So there are a number of programming controls. Requiring approval authority. So when I want to go and buy something, I can't just go out and buy it. I actually need to get approval from a superior. Once they have approved what I can spend, then I'm given the go-ahead to go and purchase it, for example. Approving payroll separate to the person who's processing payroll. So in most organisations, you'll have the person who enters in all the timesheets and the wages and processes it, but you'll have a different person who checks it and then approves that payroll. So again, separation of duties coming into that as well as the approval authority. Physical audits, which I mentioned earlier, I, in my public accounting days, was an auditor, and so we would do the external financial statement audits on different businesses and firms. So again, it's an external person coming into your firm to check that you have got things like separation of duties, so good internal control, that your banks do reconcile, you really do have the amount of money that you've got on the balance sheet in the bank, things like that. Larger organisations also have an internal control function or internal audit function, and they actually have a team or a department who does that they're employed by the actual organisation themselves, and they do it on an internal basis. So they'll go around to different departments and make sure and check randomly that they're complying with relevant controls, laws and regulations as well. And of course, you've got access or physical controls. So locking up your assets, safeguarding them, making sure that your big machines are locked away, that your gardening tools for the gardener are actually in a locked shed on premises so that, people can't just walk up and take away your whippersnipper or other assets. So there are physical controls and access as well. So I'll put your microphone on.
Would that access and physical controls also have something to do with, like, if you're saying locks as a physical thing, that include, would that fall under programming controls?
Oh yeah, could be too. So controls could be passwords as well. But yeah, access and physical control. So access as passwords, yep, for sure. Making sure you've got passwords for even just user rights. So one organisation I work with, they've just finished their financial statement audit actually, and one of the internal controls that the external auditors picked up was the fact that the CEO had access to, even though she'd never accessed the accounting software, she actually had access to it. And because she was also the approving authority, that meant that she would go in, process her own whatever, and then approve it as well. And so the fact that she had the access, even though she'd never used it, that was a drop in internal controls, and so they reported it. So yeah, so just the actual who can actually access the accounting software itself can often be an issue. So not having an extra user on there. Was that a question from Rockhampton? I heard some people talking.
No, we're good, sorry.
That's all right. We'd like you to join in, Martin, anyway.
Dana would just like to say hi anyway.
She loves it.
Yeah, she's still warming up.
It's always fun being with Martin. Okay, so now just because your accounting system is computerised, it doesn't mean that you're not going to make an error or that there's going to be no fraud. Although it still surprises a lot of people that, wow, we found an error and they use an electronic system. Remember, it's still garbage in, garbage out. There's still opportunity for it. Otherwise, things like internal controls wouldn't exist. So on this slide, I've listed a couple of limitations of control systems. And again, the bigger your organisation is, obviously there's more opportunities, I guess, for fraud because there's a larger number of people accessing the information, accessing that system and that process from input to output. So the limitation on that control system is obviously going to be influenced by the size of your organisation. As I mentioned before, if you've got a small business and you've only got one person who's juggling lots of different roles, are you really going to be able to enforce separation of duties? No. So that is one limitation of internal controls. Again, even the best controls can break down due to fatigue, lack of education, management apathy, and I've seen management apathy happen all the time, particularly in non-for-profit organisations, because those running them do have everybody has compassion, but they have seemed to me to be very compassionate people, and so their employees will come to them and say, look, I really need blah, 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 can you help me out, whatever. And so, you've got empathy there, and then you've also got the on the other side of that, you've also got the managers who don't care because it's not their money. So there's two sides. I've seen management empathy, and I've also seen management apathy, which means carelessness. So when you're not spending your own money, sometimes you can be a little bit reckless and careless with those funds. So that's another cause of breakdown in internal control is management carelessness. Also, the difficulties in detecting computer fraud, that one is probably the most publicised or has been the most publicised, particularly in relation to financial fraud. So I'm sure everybody remembers the Prince of Queensland Health. So again, there was a difficulty again in detecting computer fraud that person had committed. But it is there, and it is a growing area. So forensic accounting is a very interesting and growing area as well, particularly in the last decade or so, as our electronic systems keep developing. So yes, computer fraud can be very difficult to detect, but the people who know what they're doing and who are trained in forensic the forensic side of IT they have different tools and mechanisms to detect it. So it's getting a little bit less difficult as time goes on. If there is a heavy reliance on segregation of duties, so if you do rely on that separation of duties in a larger organisation, then employees can still get around separation of duties by colluding, which means going into partnership with. So if Maitland is my superior and he has approval for a payroll, for example, and I'm the processing payroll clerk, so I sit there and I enter everybody's timesheets and process them every week, I can create a fake employee, put my bank account details there, enter it, and then I can agree with Maitland to give him half of the pay every week, and he would then approve it, and so we could collude and we could still circumvent that internal control. So even though there's that separation of duties, Maitland doesn't do the processing, he just does the approval, but I do the processing, we could collude and still circumvent that accounting control. So just be aware there is ways to get around things. Not that, we don't obviously advocate that, and hopefully, you don't come across that in the real world, but be aware it is possible. The idea is that we're minimising the opportunities. Okay, so accounting software now. So that's all I really want to say on accounting systems, whether they be manual or electronic. Moving on to more specific accounting software, so our electronic systems now. Computerised accounting systems can either be developed in-house, that just means developed by the company who's using that software itself. Off-the-shelf software, which means you can literally go into a store and buy it off the shelf. Or nowadays we don't really go into a store to buy things, we go online, so that's still off-the-shelf software. So MYOB is an off-the-shelf software. You can go online and buy it or try it for free, as we're going to do, or a combination of both off-the-shelf and in-house. So a company might start with, for example, an off-the-shelf software like SAP, and then they may further develop it or tailor it to their specific business. So they might add on extra modules, they might employ IT professionals to add on extra modules or extra reporting functions that actually serve the purpose of that for their particular business. So it may be online, and increasingly a lot more systems are now moving online. So established and older systems such as MYOB or MYOB, they started as the old CDs, discs, that you used to install. And as our times have changed and our IT has developed, our electronic systems have developed, MYOB has become more electronic, and it's actually moved to online versions, which we call the cloud. So whenever you hear, Lois mentioned before, Xero was born in the cloud, it was born from an online. It was only ever an online version. So a lot of the established systems are moving online to the cloud now. So the main benefit of that and the main difference in MYOB itself is it allows you to log in with any device from any location, and one of the biggest things is user access. So with my small to medium clients, they have a number of different people who can log in to use the same MYOB file. So if there used to be an issue, back in the day, you used to have only one person could log in at a time, or only two people could log in at a time, depending on how much you paid MYOB, et cetera, et cetera. And then when one person had to log out so that another person could get in. So there was all this user access issues. Over the times, they've refined that. So, they would allow you, say, 5 users to log in at a time. But then the file itself couldn't handle that, so it was a bit slower. So you still wouldn't want 5 people logging in. And so eventually, they've moved now to the cloud. So MYOB now is in the cloud, or you can choose a cloud option when you purchase it, or subscribe to it, I should say. And it's so good now. The system and itself is so good that anybody can log in at any time, and it saves it for you at any time in real time. So everything is constantly updated. And this has been a real, it's made communication between different users of that file a lot more easier because, for example, I remember back in my public practice days, clients used to have to save their little MYOB file, bring it in on a disk for me, and then they would do a backup as at a certain date. So then I'd load that onto my system and download their reports and do what I had to do, and then I'd give them journals to enter back into their system. And by then they'd already moved on because time had moved on, so they had to go back into their file. And it was just all of this, you know, at different times, different dates, we had to enter different information in. Nowadays, most clients actually just have a separate user profile. They can upload their file to the cloud. Their auditors log in in real time, see an absolute exact copy of the file as it is right now, them working in it. Everybody can work in it, get reports out of it, and log out again. And there's no need for having to back up and then transfer back up to somebody else and then wait for a few weeks and get it back and reload it in. So multiple access improves business efficiency, and that's been a really big positive from moving to the cloud, particularly with MYOB. Okay, a lot of accounting software interlinks with and utilises or lets you export to and import from electronic spreadsheets using Excel. Now, sometimes, well, most of the time, I don't think I've ever seen anything that doesn't require manipulation. You need to modify those Excel files. So you do manually have to either put your data in a certain format for it to be able to accept the upload, and when you export from one of the accounting packages, you will usually modify it in some form before you present that report to management or whoever is requesting it. So it does interlink it. Okay, there are some general ledger programs. This is actually from Lois's slide last year. I've just left this in. So Xero and Zazu, as Lois mentioned before, they're born in the cloud, so they were created online, their online systems. They're still developing and improving. And we're constantly looking and seeing if we can incorporate, for example, Xero at some point in this unit in the future. At the moment, it's not quite to the stage where we feel it's surpassing MYOB for introduction, but we're certainly keeping an eye on that as, you know, the cloud changes, so as our online systems and functions change. There's a number of other general ledger programs, MYOB, which we're looking at, FreshBooks, QuickBooks, Sybase. These have all been established. They were long established, and there's a lot more than this, but they were then, they've migrated to the cloud itself. And of course, they've also bought out a lot of the other accounting software packages that have been running. So for example, when I was in public practice, one of my firms used a company or a package called Solution 6, and MYOB actually bought out Solution 6 years ago. So a lot of these companies are still around because they've purchased other companies as well. Data input is entered from your source documents. Sometimes data is actually created through the system. So your sales invoices, you enter the data in and you create a source document for somebody else's accounting system from MYOB or your accounting software. So we have data input entered from source documents, which you can also create source documents for other businesses from, and the reports are generated by the program, and that's so good because if you have a manual system, you have to do it all yourself. So accounting software has certainly made a lot of the manual entry process a lot more efficient. Now, reporting is where I found in practice a lot of these smaller systems fall down. So particularly with the work I've done with QuickBooks with clients and MYOB as well, and also SAP, the actual reporting functions themselves are very generic and basic, and they don't let you streamline some of the data that you need. So accountants have had to try and value add for their employers by downloading multiple reports, extracting the bits of information that they need from those reports, reading between the lines and putting them together for a coherent report to management. And we sort of try and get you to do a little bit of that with step 9 of your assignment. We really want you to sit back once you've done all the data input, because you will have to do it for your assignment, steps 8 and 9. Once you've done the data input and the process, well, the MYOB does the processing for you, we ask you to pull out some reports, show us those reports, and then we want you to sit back and go, what is this report actually telling us? Okay, and that's the important part, because if you put garbage in, you're going to get garbage out. So you make your assignment as good as you can. So make sure that you're looking at the entry, the input sections. when you're creating your business transactions, so that you've got something of substance to be able to comment on with your reports when you pull them out. I mentioned this before, important considerations in choosing a computerised or electronic accounting system. Cost versus benefit. Is it worth paying for a more expensive system for the benefit that we're going to get? Compatibility with the business. Different industries use different software for certain reasons, again, usually input or reporting. The flexibility and adaptability of the actual software itself. Again, keep in mind that some of the newer cloud software systems are still developing. And also, what sort of internal controls does your business need? Okay, so in our unit, we're using MYOB. And this is the general function of MYOB. Now, the command center itself looks different to this. This is explaining to you the system software. So we see all of our input, our source documents in the pink little circle here. And in the blue, we see the actual processing function that it's input into. And then we have down here in the bottom, so the software itself does the processing between each of these functions into the general ledger. And then we have all of the output, which is our reports. So we have all of our special reports, and there's heaps of them that we can choose from in MYOB. And we also have our general reports as well. Okay, so our inputs, we can see are the pink, the processing is the blue, and the output in MYOB is the green. So that's really all this slide is, just showing that accounting system, the input, processing, output, within the MYOB software itself. Now, I would like to just point out, if you download a different version of MYOB, which you can do, I don't mind which version, there's from memory 2 or 3 different versions for both Mac and Windows users. It just means if you download a higher end of the version, you'll just have more different functions to go through. So MYOB Account Right Basic will just give you these predominant functions. If you're downloading Pro or Premier, you'll have, for example, payroll as an additional ledger. You might have assets as an additional ledger as well. So you've got the fundamental command centers. We have accounts, banking, sales, purchases, and inventory. And most students find that all of the transactions that they create in step 9 can be entered through the sales function, through the purchases function, so for all the sales that they make to their customers, all of the purchases that they made, and also payments to suppliers for things like electricity can be also put through the purchases. Some students also choose to pretend they've got wages in their business, and they'll still put their wages payments through the purchases function as well, which is fine. If you choose to download the version that's got the actual payroll function, then put them through the payroll function. We don't mind. What we're trying to get you to do with the assignment is to explore this as an accounting software package. And then you will also use general journal entries. Well, you may also use some general journal entries. The biggest mistake I see with step 9 when we're marking is students enter everything through this general journal. They literally go in and you enter a general journal through this. You can enter a general journal through the accounts function. It's not the only function through accounts. There's a number of other functions, but one of them is the ability to enter general journals. Don't do that. That's not helping you to learn about using an accounting software package. Okay, most accounting software packages will have at the very minimum a sales and a purchases function and a banking function. So make sure that you're at least exploring those 3 in quite a bit of detail. And the principles behind these you can use across any accounting software package, not just MYOB. Okay, so this is what Account Right Plus, the very basic, actually I think it's the middle version. This is what it looks like. So you can see we call these up the top, they're the different general ledger modules, and MYOB calls them command centers. So if you make a sale to a customer, you click in the sales command center, and then it will bring up a whole different menu underneath here, and then you can have a look at what you want to do. So enter bill, enter invoice. You can create invoice. You can create orders, you can pay, receive money. So there's a number of different functions under sales. Again, same thing for purchases. Time billing is to do with your timesheets for your employees. And then there's the payroll function, inventory function, and this card file is basically, and it's an electronic filing system of every item that you use. So you can see, in the card file, you'll see all of the different files for your employees and your other accounts that you use. So banking, again, is to do with receiving cash money, making deposits to the bank, reconciling your bank, and so forth. So there are basic, and of course accounts, which you can see here. There are basic command center items, and the main ones that we really want you to just explore, just literally click in them, see what they do, and explore them, are the sales, the purchases, banking, and the accounts. Okay, you can explore the others, that's perfectly fine. You can take this learning journey as far as you want. So we have the menu bar again in similar format. The title bar tells you what it is. Command center icons. Every command center will have a different set of flowchart options here in this section, and you can click on each one to do whatever task you require. And then there's a couple little other options. I believe they've added one more button here as well. That's only just literally come in the last month or so. So we haven't got it on the slides. And I'm not sure if it will appear in the basic version, which is the only version we really require that you download. Now, this little button here is very useful. It's probably one that you will use a lot. So click in there for all your reports. The big question we always get is, help, help me do this. So I'm going to spend a couple minutes going through the help function and where to get help from in MYOB. Okay, MYOB itself has a very comprehensive help center, which is a resource. It describes all of the functions, every single feature of your software. It includes Windows descriptions, tips for helping you solve common problems, and step-by-step guides on how to solve a problem. So everything, and we found once students can access that help center, they pretty much can resolve all of their issues. And also discussing with your peers. Where did you find this? How did you do this? Oh, I went to the help center and it told me this. Here's the link. Thank you. And you can go on your merry way. Now, the help center is installed when you download and install the software. However, MYOB recommends that you use the online version of help if you're usually connected to the internet, because it's the most updated version. Okay, the online version is updated regularly between all their product releases, and it also may contain new help topics which are relevant to you. And again, because it's online, it's dynamic, it's changing all the time, and they update it with feedback from users as well. So if you are offline using it, then just be aware your help will be only as good as the last time you connected online. To use the online help version, I've got step-by-steps here. It's going to mean nothing to you if I read it out now. But the main thing I want you to remember from this slide, so hint, hint, put your ears open, press the F1 key. F1 equals help in MYOB. Okay? So in any window, you can press the F1 key and that will automatically bring up the help window, and then you can search and type in your questions and follow it through from there. I've also put on this slide the URL that you can type into a browser if you aren't wanting to use the F1 key within a window. If you just like to go straight on the internet to use the online version of the MYOB Help Centre, just literally go to help.myob.com.au. Now, when you enter that in, that will bring you automatically to their MYOB support page, which is like, it's a changed URL, but at the moment they're still allowing us to put that in. So if you go to, I think it was, so if we type in help.myob.com.au, you'll see that it comes up with myob.com/au/support. So that's fine. That's the MYOB help page right there. And then you can scroll down. You can click on whichever version you downloaded. And so, for example, if you've downloaded Account Edge on a Mac, visit the Account Edge Help Center. So then you can choose that product. All right. So there's lots of help And again, MYOB is a very, very commonly used accounting software package. So the Help Centre is comprehensive online. There's also heaps of, in this comprehensive Help Centre, there's also heaps of Show Me How videos. And they demonstrate how to use many of the new features. And they're very short as well, which is good. So you can go, oh, I just need to know how to do this. Go to the Show Me How videos, type it in, click on the video that you want to see, and within 5 minutes, you'll know how to do it. So, you know, that's pretty good for time management. Note that you do have to have internet access, obviously, because it is all online and they always are updated. So again, here's the steps to access the Show Me How videos. Command centres I've already run through. So in AccountWrite Standard, you'll see there's 6 command centres. If you download AccountWrite Plus, it includes the time billing and payroll features. So there's 8 command centres. That's the one I had on the screen previously. Each command centre contains the row of icons in the top section, which allows you to switch between the command centres. And the selected icon represents the current selected command centre that you're working within. Okay, so I'd like to run through step 8 and 9 of your assignment. Hopefully in your tutorials today, though, you will make a good start, if not finish, a good amount of step 8, and then you'll be able to go away and just finish step 9 in your own time. So as part of step 8, you'll see there's a free quiz. Just note that it's not supported by all internet browsers. So in the past, we've had students, they've tried to open it, say, on Internet Explorer, and it hasn't opened for them, or they've got to the last question and they've pressed submit and nothing comes up. And so they have to go back and redo it all over again. They've found that if they use Google Chrome or Mozilla Firefox, then it's worked. So you might just need to try a few different browsers. I recommend, if you get it to work on any browser, just make sure you take screenshots of every question, and you can just put that into your assignment. Okay, in the assignment, step 8, it lists out the embedded links to the MYOB AccountWrite website, to the tutorials that you'll need to do. I'm going to point out the Start Learning button now, and also the MYOB Online Skills Test. There's 13 questions. That was the one I'm referring to. I recommend just a screenshot every page. We'll just quickly flick to step 8 of your assignment. So we are exposing you to MYOB, and in this step you're going to learn how to use it, either MYOB AccountWrite, which is for Windows, or MYOB Account Edge, which is for Mac. Okay, so most accounting software systems will actually give you a trial version which you can try for free, usually for a period of about a month. So in this step we're going to trial MYOB. But you need to note you only have 30 days within which to trial MYOB for free, beginning from the date that you download it and install it onto your computer. So make sure when you download it, you're ready to complete it. So we're hoping everybody's up to that step today so we can get cracking on this. And 30 days is more than enough time to complete it, because if you look at the time that's required for actually completing this step, 5 hours for step 8 and 9 hours for step 9, you'll see that's a lot less than 30 days. Okay, so you do have a bit of time to get through this, but just be aware, keep it in the back of your mind. Okay, so depending on your computer's accounting operating system, click on this for the MYOB AccountWrite website. So press Control and click if you're using Windows, or press Control and click the MYOB Account Edge website. When you click this one, as I'll show you now, the MYOB AccountWrite website, it brings you up to this page. And then I want you to click, so this is for Windows users, then I want you to click the Try Free for 30 Days button. Okay, that's what this section tells you. Try free for 30 days for Windows. Now, when you click on the MYOB Account Edge website, this is what it brings up. It brings up, there used to be a little button here that says Try for Free, and they've moved it. And they've only just done that because I checked these links at the beginning of term. So what I want you to do, if you're using Mac, is scroll right to the bottom of the page, right down here, and you will see a little link that says Try MYOB Accounting Software Free. So click on that and it brings you to the page for every single one. So you can do this for Account Right or Account Edge. Then you just scroll down till you see Mac accounting software, and then you've got the 3 different options that you can try. So all you need to do is just Account Edge Basic. If you like to have a look at Account Edge Pro, you can. Please don't use Account Edge Network Edition. I would just stick to either Basic or Pro, depending on which one you would like to actually explore. Okay, and then you can click Try for free, and then it will ask you to put in your details and you can sign up. So same with if you've got Windows, it goes straight to the correct page, and they haven't taken this button away yet. So you can click there, choose either Standard or Plus. I wouldn't recommend Premier at this stage, just stick with either Standard or Plus. And again, don't do the Buy Today button, click the Try Free for 30 days button, depending on the package that you want. Don't click the I need MYOB for study, actually try the real package. So I want to try Account Right. Doesn't matter if you do, but you know, we want you to try the real software version, and then you can sign up and follow it through. Okay, so that's this section here, depending on whether you have Windows or Mac. Now, this is important. MYOB offers tutorials for operating their products. Okay, we want you to click on this link and we want you to use these tutorials. So if you press Control and click, it will bring you up to the tutorials that we actually want you to use. Now, Mac users, please use these as well. I want everybody, regardless of whether you're doing Windows or Mac, whichever operating system you're using, you will be able to follow through these videos on the system that you download, including Mac. Okay, because the interfaces are very similar. So if you've got Mac, please use it. If you've got Windows, please use it. This is it. These are the 2 tutorials we want you to follow. This is what we call the setup tutorial. This is the learning how to use tutorial, okay? So setup and training. So we want you to do the setup, which is about 1.5 hours, and we want you to do the training, which is about 3 hours. And when you click into each of these, it will bring you to a number of very short videos on each of the different, so there's a number of different modules that they take you through. On the left-hand side, you'll have a video menu on each of these, and it will literally show you how to set up Account Right and then how to use Account Right. And again, for Mac users, you can follow the same process for learning how to use the Account Edge. Okay, so choose which product. So click on the Start Learning. I have put that note in for Mac users. Please use it. In fact, the products are so similar, Account Edge and Account Right, that MYOB only produces training and tutorials for Account Right. That's how similar they are. So Mac users, please use the same products that are available. Now, how you complete the training may differ for each person. For example, what file you create, what bank accounts you link or skip linking, and what entries you create in your MYOB file may be done differently by different people. That's the idea. We just want you to explore how to use MYOB, okay? You are having the opportunity to learn and become familiar with one of the most common accounting software packages for small to medium-sized businesses in Australia. And there's no one way in which you can learn to do that. So you can set up the Clearwater file, you can use your own firm, create hypothetical data. The idea is you're learning about this software package. Okay, marks for this section are not based on the quality of your MYOB file. Marking is simply based on the evidence of you going through that learning process. So because we want the evidence of it, we just want screenshots. Now, everybody always gets confused about screenshots. So please take a screenshot, and there's a little asterisk here, and that's because if you don't know how to take a screenshot, you just quickly go down here and there's heaps of links showing you how to take a screenshot. Okay, so take a screenshot. Again, if you don't know, just click on these links and you will learn. Of your last screen or transaction in your own MYOB file that you created as part of going through these 2 tutorials, okay? So we don't want these videos screenshotted. A lot of students will click on here and then they'll screenshot the first video of the setup, and then they'll screenshot the last video, and then they'll screenshot the first video, and they'll screenshot the last video. We don't care about these videos. We can watch these videos if we want to watch them. We want to see what you were doing in your file at the time that you were watching these videos in here. So you will notice these videos are very hands-on. They tell you, they'll say, okay, this is what you can do. So as it shows you what to do, then go into your file and have a bit of an explore. So watch the video here to set up, then go and set it up. Watch the training here and then go and explore. We want to see what you were doing when you finished this section and what you were doing in your file when you finished this section. So just 2 screenshots. That's all we need for this section. So we want you to watch these videos. We don't want a screenshot of these videos. We want a screenshot of your file. What were you doing in your file? What was the screen you were in when you finished the setup? What was the screen in your file that you were in when you finished the training? So screenshot your file, okay? Your file. And include both of those screenshots in the Word document as evidence that you have completed the setup and the training. So everybody's screenshot will be different because it's a screenshot of your file, not of the training videos. Okay, so you need to submit a screenshot of the last screen you were working in your file, not the last screen of the training video or the setup video. Okay, we are interested in seeing the last screen that you were working in when you completed each section of the training and setup, but we want to see your file. If you do not include those 2 screenshots, you won't get marks. Simple as that. Okay, then you click to go to the Easy Learn MYOB online training skills test, and that's the 13 questions quiz. You have 30 minutes within which to complete it. However, if you're reasonably competent because you've already done the setup and the training, it won't take you any more than 10 minutes. Okay, including taking screenshots. Some students complete it in about 5 minutes. So, but you have up to 30 minutes. So if you do need it, then you know you can do it, and you can do it again. What we need to do is we need you to take a screenshot of your final results, okay, so which is provided on the screen when you complete the 13 questions. Now, if you use a different browser, sometimes this doesn't come up, and that's what I was saying before. Take a screenshot of every question, so you'll have 13, just in case. If you get the screenshot of your results, that's great. Just include that one. That's all we need to see. So if that does come up on the screen for you, then we just need to see the one screenshot. If your results don't come up, you can't screenshot it, then let us see each question that you completed, okay? And again, if you don't include the screenshots, we can't give you marks. We can only give you marks for evidence. Okay, so this is what the quiz looks like. So you put your name and your email, and then you click start, and then it goes through your 13 questions. Okay, so that's step 8. Step 9 then involves you, so this is what I'd hope we will work through today in your tutorials, or work through a large amount of, and that you will be clear on what you have to do once you leave the workshops today. And then step 9, once you know how to use MYOB, now we want you to actually show us how you're going to create the input and interpret the output. So how you're going to use that accounting system. So it involves you creating a set of business transactions for your company, recording them in MYOB, in your MYOB file, and then producing a set of financial statements and telling us about them. So every day you engage in and perform transactions, for example, filling up your car and paying for it is a transaction. In your financial records, if you were to record this transaction, it would appear as a debit to fuel or a credit to cash at bank or a credit to your credit card liability if you're paying with credit card. To record this transaction in money, you would in MYOB, you would simply use the spend money function in the banking command center, okay? And there's a note, a good peer-wise question could be based around why you might use this function instead of the pay bills function in MYOB. And you will learn the difference as you go through exploring how to use MYOB. So you can think of transactions as interactions between customers and suppliers and a business. Transactions can be very simple, like our fuel example above, or more complex. If you look up any business dictionary, you will probably get a formal definition for a transaction, such as a transaction is an economic event that initiates a recording process in a business accounting system. But however, as you've seen, if you do not have an accounting system, and yes, most people probably do not keep track of their personal fuel expenses in an accounting system, you can still be creating transactions, even if you do not record them. So in this step, we need you to create a set of 10 hypothetical business transactions that might be realistic for your firm that you've been allocated. So everybody's transactions are going to be different because we want you to relate these business transactions to your firm's industry and operations, and we want to see what they are. So please list out those 10 business transactions in your Word document for this step. We can't give you any marks if you don't show us your transactions. We can't pull them out of MYOB. Okay, you need to tell us what they are and type them into your Word document. Once you've created your business transactions, then record them in MYOB, okay? So then there's a few steps on how you can record them here. So whether you use your existing file or you create a new file, it's up to you. Just remember, whatever's in your file will be output in your reports. Okay, so input your business transactions, and then once you've recorded your business transactions, export the All Journals report and include this in your step 9. Okay? Now, this is not a trick question. This is a question to get you to explore the reporting section of MYOB, okay? Because you do need to explore it a little bit in order to find this. And we want you to interact while you're doing this. So use the MYOB Help and tutorials, our Facebook page, discussion forums, others, etc., about how to generate that report. It must be that report. It can't be a screenshot of your MYOB file. It has to be a report, okay? So I've given you a hint. The All Journals report is basically a report of all your transactions over a period from all of the journals. Okay, MYOB has automatically generated these journal entries in various source journals for you. And the All Journals report doesn't appear in the index to report. Okay, the correct report we are asking you to submit will actually show the heading in the report called All Journals once you run the report. So you will know it's the correct report because it will be called the All Journals report. And you will need to explore the command center functions in order to find it. Okay? Once you've found the correct report, you can either export it to Excel and copy and paste it into your Word document, or you can take a screenshot of this report and include the screenshot in your Word document. We don't mind. I actually prefer a screenshot. But again, it doesn't matter. However you want to get it in there, make sure it's the correct report. Then, so you need to do the All Journals report. Then, in addition to that report, we want to see your set of financial statements. We want you to export, or again, screenshot, your income statement, your balance sheet, and your statement of cash flows. If you do a screenshot, it has to be of the actual report itself. Okay? Now, remember, MYOB doesn't call an income statement an income statement. So you'll have to call on your prior knowledge of what it might be called in MYOB and generate that correct statement. Okay? You'll need to generate a set of financial statements. So we want to see your profit and loss, balance sheet, and statement of cash flows. And again, we want you to explore it. We want you to explore how to generate these reports. Because if we just tell you it's just following through something and you're not remembering, if you have to search a bit to find it, hopefully you'll remember in the future. So this is your learning journey. Include those financial statements in your Word document. Again, you can either export them, copy and paste them, or take a screenshot. Now we get to the exciting part. Now that you've done your reports, don't just finish it and put them in your Word document. Oh, I've done that step at the end. The exciting part is look at them. What are they telling you? Take a good look at them. What story are they telling you? What inputs did you have that are now outputs, okay? Tell us what tools you might use to analyse these financials. Why? And include all of that discussion and the story that your financial statements are telling you in your Word document. Okay, you will get marked on that. So that's step 9. So that's step 8 and step 9 of the assignment. Okay, I'll explain that. Okay, to wake everyone up, just to finish off with, tell me what button you press if you need help in MYOB, all right? So go to the interactive slide next, type it in, tell me what button that you press if you need help when you're in MYOB. Completing the assignment and you're stuck, what button do you press? That's an easy one, Maitland reckons. And while you're on a roll too, you know, you can start thinking about the minute paper. I'll give you a minute soon. All right, let's see. 3 submissions. Yes, F1. I had in a previous term someone put in help.support.myob.com.au, and I said, look, if you're outside of MYOB or if you minimise the screen, yes, sure, you can type that into your browser as well. It will bring you up a similar function. You're still using the online command centre. But if you're in MYOB, you can just press F1 and it will bring up your help search window for you. Well done. Okay, minute paper. Everyone's raring to go. So tell me, what was the most important thing you learned today and what questions still remain unanswered? You probably will have a few of these, but hopefully they're going to be explained in our workshops for you. Okay, so what was the most important thing you learned today, and what questions still remain unanswered? Tell me. Okay, that's a minute, so let's go and have a look. What was the most important thing you learned today? 2 people have told me that you can do MYOB. Can MYOB do my assignment? MYOB can't do your assignment for you, sorry. But you will use MYOB to do your assignment. If the inputs aren't entered correctly, the rest of the information is rendered useless. Well, it's not totally useless, but it's just only as good as what you put in. So that is a good insight. Questions still remaining unanswered. Oh, I've got another one. How to use MYOB and the tasks of step 8 and 9. Good. And you'll probably have to go back and rewatch this a couple times while you're doing your assignment, and that's fine. That's why we record the lectures. What questions still remain unanswered? We haven't got any. I certainly haven't answered all of your questions. So I know there's a lot, but you might just be raring to go to your tutorials. I thought we might have a few just on the actual tutorials themselves. I was just trying to get the videos for each of these to actually pop up on the screen, but they don't like my Internet Explorer, and they don't seem to like Google Chrome, so I'm just trying them in Mozilla Firefox just to see. I think it just could be my lecture theatre computer. But the importance is you might need to try a few browsers to make sure that the different functions work for you. Let's quickly flip back to the slides, see if we've got any more. What questions still remain unanswered? Have a look. Is F1? Yes, F1's used for everything. So yes, used for Mac as well. And again, you've got access to that online help centre for Mac or Windows, and it's the same one. If you type in help.myob.com.au, it will bring you up to the Account Right help, but it's so similar to Account Edge for Mac that they haven't even put out separate help videos. It's so similar. They've said Mac users can still access and learn how to fix out their problems from their Account Right videos. Sorry? Oh, did they? Okay. If it isn't working, if something isn't working, always go to the straight source. So if F1 isn't working on your computer for Mac, they may have changed that. Like I said, it is dynamic. So always the software is always updating. Now, I'm not a Mac user, so there may be a substitute button that they've changed that to. So can you, so other Mac users, maybe put a post on the Facebook site, hey, is anyone, using Mac as well? I have noticed it hasn't worked. I'm just using the help.myob.com.au website in the meantime, so that's what you will have to use. If F1 doesn't work in Mac, so Mac users, just go straight to an internet browser, type in help.myob.com.au and use the help centre that way, access the help centre that way. Either way, you still have got help, and that's the important thing. You need to be able to access that help centre. So help.myob.com.au, it will bring it up. And again, there are links in your assignments to the MYOB website. So we've got a link to the MYOB Account Right as well to the MYOB Account Edge. Okay, well, it looks like that's it for me. So we will end early unless there's other questions from students or the teaching team, we'll get stuck into the workshops. We've got a bit to get through with our MYOB this week.